How much storage do you think an iPhone or Android phone needs? That's what I'd like to talk about today, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, so please do post a comment below. Now, this is a topic that comes up every few years, but it comes up for a reason. The needle as to what you need to use a phone, and the amount of storage that you need, that needle is always moving forward. In the past, you'd maybe be asking the question, is 8 gigabytes enough? Is 16 enough? Is 32 enough? But over time, our apps, images, videos, all of these things require more storage. We're now watching things and recording things in 4K. We're not watching and recording in 480p. So because all of these things need more storage, we need to increase the base amount of storage. But the question is, how much storage do you need? Now, it's an interesting topic now because the market is so different to what it was years ago. 10 years ago, you could stick a micro SD card in most phones and just increase your storage. But for the most part, you don't get that now. The storage you get on day one is the storage you're going to have on day 1000. You're kind of stuck with what you've got. Now, that might suggest that what you should do is always buy as much storage as possible. But it's not as, it's not as clear cut as that. Companies like Samsung and Apple charge a hefty premium for increasing your storage. So whilst it is good to get more storage, you could save that money and then down the line just put it towards a new phone. So it's not always black and white. It's hard to say whether you should, kind of run with the minimum amount of storage or try and, get a little bit more space for the future. Now, what is the minimum amount of storage? Over the last year or so in the Android world, most of the kind of medium to premium Android phones, they've had their base storage increase from 128 to 256. Now, this is an area where Apple was kind of falling behind, but today is the release of the Apple iPhone 17, 17 Pro, 17 Pro Max, and the Air. And all of those phones have had their base storage increase from 128 to 256. I think the Max was already 256. Now, I think that's a great thing. Across the board, doesn't matter if you're an Apple user, Android user, the base amount of storage in most phones now is 256 gigabytes. And I do think that is the minimum which you should aim for. There are some, odd phones out there that have a little bit less. But I guess it raises the question now, if 256 is the minimum, is there value in going for 512 or 1 terabytes, or like Apple's now offering 2 terabytes as well? And it depends. There is no right or wrong answer to this question. There really isn't. We're all using phones in different ways. We've all got different requirements. If you're downloading a lot of movies to your phone, you watch Netflix and Amazon Video on your phone a lot, you want to download, TV shows and movies to your phone and watch it without having to stream, then you want more storage. I wouldn't say that's the average user. I would say I'm a power user for most things, and I use my phone probably more than I should. But when it comes to storage, I'm quite a light user. I'm probably like the average person. Now, you can see here, this is my Honor Magic 7 Pro, and this came with 512. Now, I did a cleanup a few days ago, and I removed about 40, 50 gig, but you can see that I've still got 10 gigabyte of images. What's that, 65, 66 gigabytes of videos. What's the apps? The apps are using 116 gigabytes. Now, I did remove a little the other day, and I could remove more. I back up all my images and videos to Google Photos, so I could delete all my images and videos locally and just rely on what I've uploaded to the cloud. But if you're smart, you should really just clean up your phone. That's the smart thing to do. It's not the lazy thing is to not do that, but the smart thing is to try and optimize your phone. And what that means is you delete your junk files. You can remove unused apps. I mean, this is another thing. Yeah, I do think, generally speaking, we're all guilty of this. We download apps, we use them once or twice, and then you forget about them. They just get lost in the app drawer, but they use up a lot of storage. They use up a lot of memory sometimes as well. And you really should be trying to remove them, uninstall them. If you're not using them, just remove them, because you'd be surprised at how much some of these apps use. Paw Academy, that's a little game for my son. I've not used that in about 6 months, but it's using up 3.3 gigabytes. And it just illustrates some of these apps just use a huge amount of storage on your phone. So I think it is worthwhile going through all the apps in your phone looking at what you're using and what you're not using, and just remove them. I think that's the best way to do it. And obviously at the top, you'll see the ones that are really taking up a lot of storage. Some of them are really not optimized well. I mean, I've used some video apps where I've edited a video and then I've removed the video, but they've kept it in like a cache or something like that. So there's still like 10 gigabytes there. So there's lots of things like that you should check and just make sure that, you're using your storage wisely. Now, that helps. It helps a lot. And you can obviously offload lots of things to cloud storage, but there is only so much you can do at a certain point. If you can't remove any more apps, if you can't remove any more videos or images, or you prefer to store things locally, then you're going to run out of storage and you have to increase that storage. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here, but this is something that came up for me because, as you all know, Apple iPhone 17 is out, and I pre-ordered the AirPods Pro. I pre-ordered the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Apple messed up my order and delayed it for like 3 or 4 weeks. But my good friend, YouTuber buddy David Harry, pointed him out that the iPhone 17 Pro Max was available locally at my local Apple store. So tomorrow I'm picking that up. Now, the reason I'm sidetracking with this little story is because my original order was for the 256 gigabyte version of the iPhone 17 Pro Max. The one I'm going to pick up tomorrow is 512. It's an extra £200, but it gives me that additional storage. And it's just something that it kind of raised the question, do I need more storage? Because a few days ago, I looked at this and I was using more than 256. I was using like 260, 270, which kind of surprised me. But when you start looking into this, you start seeing that all of these apps today, compared to a few years ago, they're all using more storage. The video files, the image files, everything is using more. And a lot of apps that we download, as you just saw there, they're quite lazy. They don't optimize things. They don't clean up things. And a lot of those things are just kept on your phone. So my opinion on all of this is that storage is quite expensive. If you can operate within the minimum 256 and offload your media to cloud storage and just every so often tidy things up, I think 256 is still 256 gigabytes of storage is still enough for 2025, 2026, 2027. I've opted for 512 for the latest iPhone, and all that's really doing for me and my own, kind of needs and my own daily habits, it just gives me a little bit more breathing space. That's the main thing there, and it just allows me to be a little bit lazier. I do think that if I'm honest with myself, 256 is all that I need. But 512, the fact I've used up, more than 256 already with this phone, at 512 is going to give me the breathing space that maybe I do need. But it comes at a cost. It's an extra £200, and Samsung and Google do the same thing. They all charge extra money for that additional storage. So over to you guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this. It's maybe not the most exciting topic in the world to talk about storage, but every year, whenever you're looking at buying a new phone, it's a question that comes up time and time again. Extra storage is great. We all want extra storage, but it all comes at a cost. So please do post a comment below if you've enjoyed the video, thumbs up, subscribe, and until next time, take care.